Hey pinball fans, this is Butch Peel with Chicago Gaming Company. Thought we'd make a quick video for unboxing and setting up your Pulp Fiction pinball machine. Since this retro game has a larger than usual backbox, some of you may need to remove it in order to get the pin into your game room. In the Unboxing Your Chicago Gaming Pinball Machine video, I went through the process of getting your CGC Remake game unpacked and fully set up to play. Much of that info also applies to the Pulp Fiction game, so I won't repeat it in this video. Instead, I want to quickly show you how to unbox the game without saving the shipping carton, then jump right into the process for removing and reinstalling Pulp Fiction's retro backbox. Let's go ahead and get started. Your boxed game will look like this when it arrives, strapped to a sturdy, oversized pallet. The box label provides the game model, serial number, and other important information. To unbox and set up your game, you'll need a pair of wire cutters, a pair of needle nose pliers, a razor blade knife or box cutter, and a 5/8 inch wrench or 5/8 inch socket and ratchet. Use your wire cutters to cut the straps holding the carton to the pallet. The straps can be very tight, so use your free hand to protect yourself and have all helpers and onlookers step back just a bit. Pull the straps out from under the pallet and throw them away. With a helper, wiggle the carton from side to side and slide it off the pallet. When you get one edge on the ground, lean the carton back while your helper pulls the pallet out from underneath. Use your needle nose pliers to pull all of the staples out of the top of the carton. Identify the truck this side only side of the carton. Open the carton flaps and remove the game manual from the box. It will be in a plastic bag right on top. Use your razor blade knife to carefully slice down the corners on either edge of the truck this side only side of the box. Fold the cut side of the carton all the way down. Remove as much shipping padding as possible all around the game. With some help, slide the game out of the carton, then remove the shipping padding from under the cabinet. Retrieve the game's legs from the bottom of the carton. Carefully use the razor blade knife to cut the packing tape and remove the legs, 2 from each side. Extend the leg levelers about 2/3 of the way for the 2 back legs. Spin the locking nut up against the bottom of each leg. Use your 5/8 inch wrench to remove the front leg bolts from the cabinet. Use the 2 legs with short leg levelers for the front. Applying constant upward pressure, attach the front legs to the cabinet. Firmly tighten the leg bolts, alternating between them as you finish up. With help, lower the cabinet onto the front legs. Use a prop stand of some sort to put under the back of the cabinet while you install the back legs. I use my homemade wooden stand. The more helpers, the better for this step. Remove the back leg bolts from the cabinet and install the back legs. Again, apply upward pressure on the leg during installation and alternate tightening the two leg bolts as you finish. Remove the prop and you're ready to move the game into its new home. Pulp Fiction's retro backbox is approximately 30 inches wide. This can cause problems getting the game through narrow interior doorways. Before shooting this portion of the video, the backbox strap was removed along with all of the shipping material on the playfield and in the backbox. To remove and reinstall the game's backbox, you'll need a 1/4-inch nut driver, a 7/16" nut driver or 7/16" socket and ratchet, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, and optionally a 12-inch zip tie and adhesive tape. First step is to raise the backbox to the upright position. Go slow and constantly check the cables in both holes as you go to make sure nothing gets pinched under the backbox. Fully secure the latch in the back to temporarily hold the backbox up. Retrieve the backbox key hanging on one of the coin mechs inside the coin door. Unlock the back glass, then using the lift channel, carefully slide it up, pull the bottom out, then slide the top back down to remove it from the game. Set it someplace safe. Locate the shipping screw holding the insert door closed. Use your 1/4-inch nut driver to remove it. Save the screw and washer. We'll use them again later. Unlatch and open the insert door. It has a magnet to hold the door completely open. Inside, you'll see the flange nuts used to help secure the backbox hinges, 4 on each side. Use your 7/16" nut driver to remove all 4 nuts from each side. Here is some good reference footage of how all of the harnesses are routed and where all the connectors are connected in the backbox before we remove it. All of the cabinet and playfield cables are connected to the 2 primary circuit boards in the backbox, the solenoid power board and the pinball controller board. Note the 2 inline connectors that will need to be separated, and the Ethernet cable running to the playfield. There is also a cabinet to backbox ground strap connection that will have to be taken loose. Let's begin there. Use your 1/4-inch nut driver to loosen the screw. Once the screw is free from the bottom of the backbox, twist it a bit clockwise so it threads back into the ground strap. It'll stay there until we're ready to reattach it later. Now let's disconnect all of the right side harness connectors. It's tempting, but do not pull on the wires going into the back of the connectors. Instead, grasp these large stubborn connectors with 2 hands, one at each end. Carefully wiggle the connectors back and forth as you pull them off. Keep them as straight as possible as they release. You don't want to bend the circuit board header pins. Work your way around the solenoid power board. This connector has a locking tab that you have to depress before removing it. Notice I did not disconnect the 2-pin connector with violet and orange wires. That runs to the knocker coil and will stay with the backbox. Next, we'll free the right side harness from the nylon cable clamps. One hand pulls the cable clamp open while the other hand slides the harness wires out. Take your time and work your way to the end of the harness. Then free up the secondary harness. Okay, everything's loose. One of those inline connectors also comes from this right side hole. Free it from the cable clamp and, firmly grasping it with both hands, wiggle it back and forth while pulling it apart. Let's go ahead and get that second inline connector that comes from the left side hole. Same technique. For now, leave the other end of the cable in its cable clamp like you found it. On to the left side harness connectors. Follow the bundled cables to their ends. The smaller connectors here can be removed with one hand. Again, do not pull on the wires. Wiggle the connectors a bit as you remove them, and don't bend the circuit board header pins. As with the knocker cable, no need to disconnect any of the insert door lights or score displays. They will stay with the back box. Okay, let's free up the left harness from its cable clamps. Same technique as on the right side. Some of these little buggers sure are tight. Whoops, just realized I missed a connector on the right side of the pinball controller board. Lastly, we'll disconnect the playfield Ethernet cable. Use your number 2 Phillips screwdriver to remove the cable clamp screw just below the connector. Leave the clamp around the cable. Reach behind the connector to carefully depress and hold the locking tab, then pull the connector straight down. Just need to free up the other end of that second inline connector and untangle the Ethernet cable. Done. Each of the harnesses has a zip tie around it, screwed to the back of the back box for strain relief. Use your 1/4-inch nut driver to remove the screw and free the harness. Repeat this process on the other side. Save those screws. Carefully fold the 2 harnesses back into the back box. Then close and latch the insert door. Using your 1/4-inch nut driver, reinstall the insert door shipping screw and washer. Tighten it firmly down. This will prevent your insert door from unexpectedly flying open when you get the back box loose. Spread a thick towel or blanket across the lower cabinet to protect your side rails and the frame around the head when we remove the back box. Around back, release the back box latch and carefully lower the back box onto the lower cabinet. Ensure that both harnesses remain free and loose. No tension. Carefully pull the harnesses and all of their connectors through the 2 back box bottom holes. Not absolutely necessary, but I used a 12-inch zip tie around this unruly mass of cable and connectors to protect everything during the moving process. Just loosely folded everything in and zipped it right up. Time to remove back box hinge bolts. Use your 7/16" nut driver or ratchet to remove 3 of the bolts on the right side. Leave the lower left bolt alone for now. It'll provide support for the back box as we remove the bolts on the other side. Repeat the process on the left side, this time leaving the lower right bolt in place. If you're going to stand the lower cabinet on end during the move, it's a good idea to remove the back box latch or, at the very least, apply some adhesive tape to hold it flat against the back of the cabinet. Recruit a couple of helpers for this next step, one on each side of the back box. Have them provide support for each side as you remove the final 2 hinge bolts. Remember, when you remove that last hinge bolt, the back box will be completely free. Make sure your helpers are ready to hold it and keep it from sliding down the inclined lower cabinet. You're ready to move the game pieces individually to their final location. Reversing the last steps, have your helpers support the back box again as you get 1 hinge bolt in and snug down on each side. Carefully cut the zip tie, if you used one, to free up the cable harnesses. Start the 3 remaining hinge bolts by hand so you don't accidentally cross-thread them. Once the threads are engaged on all 3, tighten them down securely with your nut driver or ratchet. Repeat this process on the other side. If you removed or taped your backbox latch, reinstall it or pull the tape off now. Carefully and completely feed the harnesses and loose wires back through their respective backbox holes. Take your time and minimize tangling and twisting as best you can. It should look like this when you're done. Carefully raise the backbox to its upright position, minding the harnesses and wires as you go. We don't want to pinch anything. Secure the backbox latch. Remove the insert door shipping screw with your 1/4-inch nut driver. Save the screw and washer in your spare parts bag in the bottom of your cabinet. Install it anytime you transport the game with the backbox down to protect your back glass. Unlatch and open the insert door. Separate the harnesses and wiring left and right. Reattach the left harness strain relief zip tie using the 1/4-inch hex head screw you removed earlier. A magnetic driver is very helpful here. Don't over-tighten the screw. It's very easy to strip it out. Repeat the process for the right harness strain relief. We'll begin reclamping and reconnecting on the right side, specifically with the secondary harness. The plug is keyed. It will only go in one way. Ensure that it click locks into place. Now for the main part of the harness. Feed it through that first clamp so we can get the lengths right. The harness will have a bit of bend memory to it that will help us along. There's the far connector. Now just work our way back around, clamping and plugging in. Use the earlier reference video if there are any questions as to what goes where. Ensure that everything is firmly plugged in and no wires are backing out of their connectors. On the left side, need to plug in that Ethernet cable first thing. Feed it behind a few of the existing cables up front and make sure it click locks into place. Then reattach its clamp using the Phillips screw you removed earlier. Feed the left harness through that first bend clamp, then start plugging in connectors. My apologies, I got my dad's ears and they're pretty hard to see through, but they're great for hearing with, so. Continue plugging along, pun intended, farthest connections to the closest ones. Again, ensure no wires are backing out of their connectors. Here's half of one of those inline connectors. We'll feed it into that corner clamp like it was before. One more connection to the solenoid power board. And here's the other half of that inline connector. We'll feed it behind the left harness and plug it in. Lastly, we'll plug in that other inline connector. Reconnect our cabinet ground strap. The 1/4" hex head screw is still attached. Wrap the ground braid clockwise around the nearest hinge bolt so the hinge will be safely grounded. Then start and snug down a flange nut on top of it. Likewise for the other hinge. Start all of the remaining flange nuts by hand, then come back with your 7/16" nut driver or ratchet to firmly tighten everything down. Install the 2 wing bolts that came with your game to securely hold the back box in the upright position. Make sure you don't pinch any wires under the wing bolts. Close and latch the insert door. Carefully reinstall your back glass and lock it. Make sure your back box key finds its way back to the hook inside the coin door. Words to live by. Congratulations, you did it. Plug it in, power it up, and challenge someone to a game of pinball. Keep an eye out for more videos covering the Pulp Fiction diagnostics and menu system. Until then, remember, all it takes is one good ball.